money is not wealth. Money is freedom.
Mm.
Money buys you time. Money buys you experiences. Money relieves anxiety in modern day society. It
Mm.
can make things much better, but money is energy. Money is something that needs to be put to work to create assets that are your true wealth.
The only way to get more money is to trade your time for more money, which is wrong. That's completely wrong. That's the lowest form of how you get money. If you're only thinking that you need to trade your time for money, guess what? You're going to be poor.
Money is just an idea made up by people to exchange goods and services. And money today has very little value, and it's losing value every day in the way that it's structured.
To understand inflation, you have to think of like a pie, right? The pie is this big, like a set size.
Yeah.
And if we don't grow the pie, but we just add more cuts and slices to it, we actually just made everyone's pieces smaller.
The bank can create money out of thin air, but we can employ methods to do more than just trade our time for money.
Yeah.
We can make money out of thin air by creating value in the marketplace, by solving problems for people, for creating products, services, and solutions.
It's not only about managing your money, it's about where you put your money.
Mm.
Like what system it's actually in. Is it in a system that naturally enriches you and creates prosperity? Or is it one that extracts value from you?
Well, those miners are spending all that energy to secure those transactions and encode them and keep them safe.
Yeah, just like a bank has security. Like, would you trust a bank that just had all the money just sitting in the middle of a field and they're like, hey, store your money with me? Would you rather play Monopoly with someone and one of the people there can actually change the rules however they want as they play the game? Or would you rather play Monopoly with a set of rules written on paper that can't change? Because that's what Bitcoin is a rules-based monetary system.
Yep.
Whereas on the other side, the fiat system is controlled by people who can make up and change the rules as they see fit whenever they want.
Welcome to the Positive Network podcast. I'm your host, Mike.
And I'm your co-host, Andrew.
It's great to have you back, sovereign citizens. Today, we're getting into the topic of sovereign money. This is the next point in the sovereign life operating system. Love getting into this topic because this is something Andrew and I are super passionate about, and there's a lot of stuff to get into. So let's get started. So Andrew, tell me about what money means to you. Maybe where did that start out at, and like tell me the story of how that evolved for you.
Yeah, actually it's a fun story. So when I was young, like we're talking about a kid, so it's funny how when you're a kid you have these formative opinions that are like kind of dictated to you and are told to you, and then later on in life you have to like unlearn them. But the first opinion that money is bad. Anyone who has a lot of money must be evil, because
Right.
The only way they got that much money is if they did something bad to like rob someone else for more money than they should have really deserved to get. That was the first kind of broken mindset, but then it had to evolve over time, right? So the next thing that happened was that money wasn't necessarily a bad thing. It was actually like a tool. That it's a force multiplier where if you're a good person, you can do great things with money. If you're someone who wants to do bad things and you have a lot of money, then you can do more bad things.
That's quite an evolution of thought.
Yeah. Then the next step was that money was not only that, but it was like a storage module for time and energy. And that it was a way for you to trade goods and services with other people who put their time into those things. So I started to look at it more, not just from a philosophical point, but also like a mechanical point. And so that money is like, let's say you had $1 billion, but you are on a deserted island because your plane crashed. That $1 billion buys you zero. You can't trade it to the crabs or the dolphins because they won't trade with you.
Yeah,
exactly. So that $1 billion is only as valuable as the economy that trades with that currency.
And I want to get into that and break that down a little bit more for the listeners, because there's some powerful lessons inside of what money actually is. And I promise you, it's nothing like what you've been taught it is.
Absolutely.
So my journey with money was, middle-class family, right into the boom of debt. So borrow and get all the cool toys you want. So really had little understanding of what money really was. I did some like money psychology to go back to my childhood to figure some stuff out. And one of those things that was really revealing was when I was a young kid, I had this little bank account that my mom had opened up, and we had our little ledgers. Like back in the day, used to write down money in, money out on a piece of
Yeah, I
paper.
remember those. Those are
And
good, fun memories.
I think I was 6 and my sister was 4. And we went in one day and they'd closed our accounts. We hadn't been in to do any action on the account in a certain period of time. So they just closed the account out.
Oh, wow.
And they literally took the money away. I think I had $19.50 in there.
And that was a lot of money. Think of how many 1-cent candies that is.
Right? Like that took me years of, this practice of going into the bank and putting money in and being all excited. And then we kind of fell off and we weren't doing it for a while, and we went back in. Well, our accounts were closed. And my mom lost it. Like she ripped a strip off the people in the bank. It got resolved. I don't remember much of the story after that, but when I did a money psychology deep dive later on in life, and I just want to like put this out there to all the listeners, like I went bankrupt from bad money habits, from not understanding how money works and from operating with it incorrectly. That's another story we can talk about. But the reason that happened to me is because I formed a childhood belief that if I don't spend all of my money, someone's going to take it away. And that was formed before I was even out of theta wave brain patterns as a child.
Yeah.
So I had this hardcore program that someone was going to take my money. So
every time you got money, you're like, okay, I got to spend
every time I
this.
got paid, it was like, this is going here, this is going here, this is going here. Okay. And it's down to 0.
Yes. Okay. I've used all the money before it gets taken away.
Super unhealthy money habits. But where did that come from? So that was one part of the journey. And then as I lost everything, I went bankrupt. I started studying money. I realized that, money is just, it's a method of trade between people. If you want a cow, someone has a chicken, you've got to turn it into something in between so that you can trade. It's a medium of exchange.
Yeah.
And then that evolved into money as energy and all of that sort of thought process as that evolved through time. So money is a really important to understand, and you can be anywhere along the spectrum of your development of understanding it. So we want to talk about a couple of concepts today to educate you, the listener, the sovereign citizen listening to this podcast, so you can make better decisions with your money and take charge of that in your life.
Yeah. Because like no matter where you're at in life, money is going to impact your ability to have freedom and to be able to do what you want to do. And so like a lot of us are in different journeys on like, what is money? I've seen people on very different spectrums, like the people who are quite wealthy, like they've really deeply thought about money and they have this whole psychology about this. And then you have people, on the other end who might have been like us in our, as a child or in our early teens or something. And it's like this psychology. It's like you have to have a deeper and deeper understanding of money. I remember when I was a kid, I was watching this movie and the guy said, I'm in finance and my whole career is around money. And I'm like, how much is there to know about money? I mean, it's just numbers in a spreadsheet. Like, how could you have your whole career based off of that? Like, that was my level.
That was the context of the time. Yeah. My context when I had lost everything, when I went bankrupt was, there's 1 or 2% of the world that seem to be very successful. They have these houses, these cars, boats, they travel here, they go there. And I'm a math guy. I love math. I love spreadsheets. As my wife says, it's my second love language. Yeah. And so like I added this all up and I'm like, what job is $450 an hour?
Yeah.
I need this job. Like, that's what I understood at the time, not understanding the power of leveraging money, of leveraging, time, all of these things.
Yeah.
You can be at many different places with your understanding of money and know that you can always level yourself up, but start where you are and evolve that process. So right now, today, what is money to you, Andrew? What does that mean?
Money is the ability to have freedom with other people's help. So it's a way to pay for things that you don't have to do yourself, to be able to achieve things that, like you couldn't manufacture a computer yourself, so you buy one. Mm-hmm. We couldn't manufacture these microphones, so we bought them.
Yeah.
We had to accumulate that money in other ways to create value, to be able to have that money to spend in the first place.
Nice.
And so I think the limiting thought there is that the only way to get more money is to trade your time for more money, which is wrong. That's completely wrong. That's the lowest form of how you get money. If you're only thinking that you need to trade your time for money, guess what? You're going to be poor because you only have 24 hours a day.
Same number of hours as everyone else, which we talked about in our Sovereign Time episode.
So there's a hard limit on how much money you can make per hour. Even if I don't care if you're making $1,000 an hour, then you've capped yourself out at $24,000 a day if you don't sleep, which is realistically like $8K a day.
To me, I share a similar belief about what money is now. Money is not wealth. Money is freedom. Money buys you time. Money buys you experiences. Money relieves anxiety in modern day society. It can make things much better. But money is energy. Money is something that needs to be put to work to create assets that are your true wealth.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the ultimate wealth, again, I'll always come back to this, is time, because you only get so many days on this planet.
Yeah.
And if you get obsessed with money like I did after going bankrupt, I got obsessed with it. I was like, I never want this feeling again. I never want to go back to this place. I sacrificed my health, my relationships, my time, everything to create wealth. And I did.
That's a supernatural response, because that's a pendulum correction, right? You're like, if it got here, then it needs to be never again.
I was running away from pain. And my thought was, if I run towards building wealth, then I will be out of pain. I created so many more painful situations in my life.
Yeah.
Thinking that money was wealth. Like, let's get into this topic, that money is just an idea made up by people to exchange goods and services. And money today has very little value, and it's losing value every day in the way that it's structured. So when I found out that money is not the pursuit, man, did that ever hurt my ego? That ever hurt my feelings? Like, I've been almost killing myself pursuing money as wealth, and that's not how you create wealth.
I've also come to see money as the way our societies are set up, is it's almost like a ticket system that allows you or denies you to do what you want to do. So it's like, if you don't have the money, then society won't allow you to do these things because you haven't traded that for it. So I think the main pursuit of achieving money or having it is to do the things that bring you joy, happiness, and fulfill your life's mission. So once you have more than that, right? If that's not stopping you, you're not in any danger. You have to think about, well, what are the trade-offs? If I continue to sacrifice my relationships, my health, my well-being, my time to get more and more money, is that actually serving the purpose of happiness in my life and serving my children and my family? Because I'm robbing, like, the people that work excessive hours because they think they need more money, and maybe they actually have more than enough money, but now they're robbing that wealth from their children, right? They might think, oh, well, I'm going to pass on my money to my kids and they'll get all this later. Well, one, that money will be devalued most likely if they just keep it in cash and they're not investing it. But more likely, the formative memories that they have of their dad or their mom are going to be gone. They're just gone, vacant. So you're not there for your family. You're not there for your kids. That's robbing them and you of wealth.
The true wealth.
The true wealth.
True wealth. Before we talk about getting into some ideas for the listeners, the sovereign citizens listening to this podcast, I want to demonstrate the current state of money and some things that people might not be aware of. So money with respect to the fractional reserve banking system.
Yeah.
This one really shocked me.
Yeah.
Money is made up. We make
100%.
more of it up every day. So for example, there's something called the fractional reserve banking system. So all banks have a mandate, even credit unions, a little bit smaller ratio. They have a mandate of a 20-to-1 ratio for fractional reserve banking. So what does that mean?
100-to-1.
33-to-1 after the big financial collapse, the last one. A 20-to-1 ratio means this. You go to your bank and you put $1 on deposit. That bank with that $1 on deposit has the ability to lend $20 to your neighbor. The $19 never existed before that, but they are allowed to create $19 in their banking system as a debt product to lend to somebody else. Where did that money come from? It came from the mandate that we have to expand the money supply to grow the economy, create more debt. And so when that hit me, that banks have a mandate to create money out of thin air, then charge you interest on that money, right? And then you pay that back. Another neighbor comes in, puts some money on deposit. They can lend out fractionally reserved a larger amount of money. This is all just a game. And it got me thinking years ago, like, if they can create money out of thin air, can I do it with my mind? And people can do that every day. You can go and buy a piece of property.
Mm-hmm.
And if you research it ahead of time, you could subdivide that piece of property and say you paid $100,000 for it, and then you turn it into 4 properties. Each one retains a value of $50,000 each. You spend your development costs, you come out at a net positive. You created money by creating value, and you've done it using your mind. So money is just one example for the listener to think about. The bank can create money out of thin air, but we can employ methods to do more than just trade our time for money.
Yeah.
We can make money out of thin air by creating value in the marketplace, by solving problems for people, for creating products, services, and solutions.
Yeah. And that's the thing that schools do not really teach you, is their training. You have to recognize that the whole school system is like in a pre-industrial society where you have like landowners who own factories, and they're like, oh crap, we need workers who are going to be skilled enough to work these factories. So if we don't educate the public, we're not going to have workers and we can't get rich.
If we don't educate them in this specific way,
to
fall into the cogs of the wheel, to go trade their time for money.
Yeah. And they didn't want to educate competitors. They wanted to educate workers.
Yes.
That's why it's do as you're told, pass these tests, memorize this data.
Stand in line.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Because that's what they want out of a good worker.
Let's put this in like a Robert Kiyosaki nutshell of the progression of a person through their life. Go to school, get good grades, get a good job, buy a house. Your house is an asset. Invest in a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Retire, live below your means, and die.
Yeah.
That's the entire plan you were taught. If you sit back and think about that when you're younger, and it's put in that context, it should terrify you, because many of us, by the time we're 30 or 40 and we're halfway through this journey, we got another 25 years left in the workforce. We're trying to save, we're trying to invest. And I've been here and failed at it. I've done the plan and ended up bankrupt starting over again. It is extremely hard to swallow when you realize when you're in the middle of this plan that's been built for you, not by you.
Yeah. It's not for your own sovereignty. It's so you depend on the job to continuously trade your time for. And so when you are trading your time for money, you're essentially a subservient slave to whoever's employing you, especially if you don't have multiple employment. Like if you're a free agent and you're trading for multiple people, great. You're more of your own boss. Still, you're trading your money for time, which is on the lower rank of this.
Yeah.
But if you're just like following the plan, which is go get a job, get your employer, just keep grinding that, it's like, okay, sometimes that works out for you, but a lot of times not, because especially the way the system has been operating with higher and higher inflation, growing debt, we're going to need to have a major restructuring of the entire financial system that's being engineered to happen.
Yeah, that's going on right now.
And that is all playing into robbing you of wealth, robbing you of prosperity. So if you don't want that, you need to learn, like listen up and learn and figure this shit out.
This is a very important topic. So let's talk about some things that sovereign citizens can do to activate their sovereign money abilities.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so one thing that comes to mind for me is managing your money. It is so critical. It doesn't matter if you have a tiny bit of money or a whole bunch of money. You need to give jobs to all of your money. So this comes from multiple people. I'm going to quote like T. Harv Eker's version of this, but think about the jar system with money. You have a jar for your expenses. You have a jar for long-term savings for spending, short-term savings for spending. You'll have a give jar. You have all these things. You need to separate your money and give it jobs. And it doesn't matter if it's $100 a month you have left over to split up, or $50 a month, or $3. You're just going to have smaller denominations. Split the money up and give it jobs. Get into the habit of saying, I need this larger purchase item. It's going to cost me $500. I need to put away $40 a month. And this is when I will have it by. Write that piece of that item down, put it into that jar, start splitting your money up.
I actually did this with a bank.
You did?
Yeah. So I went to the bank. I was like, I want to open a whole bunch of savings account and put custom names on them.
That's how I do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it works amazingly well because you can transfer money in and out of accounts. And one will be like, oh, this is food, this is like health products, this is like rent, this is like for auto stuff for your car. And you can see, and like obviously savings and taxes and all that other stuff. And you can see just at a glance, like how much money you have in each account. And you know, like, oh, I want to buy this thing. And be like, well, do I want to dip into my like health account to be able to buy some
This
other thing I
item,
shouldn't?
yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I don't want to do that. So now you're thinking more about how you're budgeting that money.
Let's talk about that. That's the way that I do it. Is you can open up as many savings accounts as you want. They don't cost you any money.
Mm-hmm.
Name them in your online banking and build a rules-based system. If you're getting paid by a paycheck right now, or if you have dividends, or if you have a company, whatever that is, when the money goes in, that's for you, split it up. You can even pre-program it for auto transfers. The day that it goes in, it auto transfers out $5 into this account, 50 into this, 50 into that, 100 into that.
Yeah.
Have 2 checkings accounts is one of the things that I do. One checking account is where all your bills come out of. It's not attached to your debit card. You cannot swipe that. The second checking account is attached to your debit card. That's where you buy your gas, your groceries, those sort of things. So your bills are always, your regular standard bills are coming out of that non-debit card checking account. All of your long-term, short-term, your play money accounts, those are all savings accounts. Have your play money account, so a certain amount of money that you must spend before your next paycheck or your next infusion of money. You have to spend that on yourself for fun because there's a sanity component to this. You have to spend that. That's a savings attached to your card.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful system. Just start splitting it up. Once you're managing your money and giving it jobs and assigning it rules, then you go, okay, now how do I make more money?
Exactly. Because if it doesn't have a job first, it can't have the job of making you more money.
As T. Harv Eker says, if you give a kid a triple scoop ice cream cone and they drop it on the ground, are you going to give them another triple scoop? So the universe is only going to give you what you can manage. And if you get more, you will continue to mismanage. You'll just mismanage larger amounts of money. We've all heard of, people instantly, becoming millionaires, winning the lottery. The statistics of them going to zero are staggering.
Yeah.
Because they don't have money management skills. It's a skill set. It's a muscle memory. It's something that you have to develop. So start when you have very little money.
Yeah.
Or start wherever you are.
Okay. So for the people that do know how to manage their money, what do you think the biggest takeaway for them is? There's
multiple things that you can do today. First thing is try to build yourself an additional source of income. So multiple sources of income. And here's the thing. I get asked all the time, what should I do? There's a million things to do. What should I do? I don't know. What I do know is when it comes to developing a second source of income or a third or however far you want to go with this, ask yourself, how many hours this week, how many hours last week, how many hours the week before did you read, even 10, 30 minutes a day, about ways to make money, about side hustles, about starting a small business, about investing in the stock market, about getting into Bitcoin? How much time did you spend? And so if you're looking for an answer that must be personalized to you with your own skill sets, that no guru, no individual can know what you're good at and what you're not good at. It's only you who can do the education that will start a plan to form in your head that will create an outcome that you can take action on.
Yeah. I have some education to drop on. The people who know how to manage their money, I have something to say. Firstly, it's not only about managing your money, it's about where you put your money. Like what system it's actually in. Is it in a system that naturally enriches you and creates prosperity? Or is it one that extracts value from you? So why I'm bringing this up is because the traditional financial system, the fiat system, there's a book that you recommended me that I read called The Creature from Jekyll Island. Go check that out. It's freaking amazing. But it details the whole start of how this whole banking system started. And it's not designed to enrich you. It's designed to keep you in check, to keep you powerless to its control. It's not sovereign.
Not at all.
Whereas Bitcoin, whereas other cryptos such as, and I'm not talking about like crypto scams and schemes because that's like 99% of them. Everyone's trying to exploit that. I want you to actually analyze how the system actually works and ask yourself, is this a system of sovereignty or a system of slavery? Because when you look at Bitcoin, it has a hard cap on how much it can be inflated. It can't be inflated past 21 million Bitcoin, as we all know. that itself should be reassuring because that gives it a deflationary aspect to it as people like lose Bitcoin or hold it or whatever. Whereas with the unlimited supply where they can just continuously inflate it, every time, like to understand inflation, you have to think of like a pie, right? The pie is this big, like a set size.
Yeah.
And if we don't grow the pie, but we just add more cuts and slices to it, we actually just made everyone's pieces smaller. So imagine if you had a pie and there's like 4 slices and you have 1 slice. Now they're like, well, we're going to do we're going to double the money supply. Well, now what they've done is someone's come by and they've cut that pie into 8 pieces, but they told you, oh, sorry, but you still only have 1 piece.
Your value has dropped.
Yeah. So if you like that pie, you're not in a happy place.
You know, and you raise a good point about learning what money is, the current version of money. I think it is so crucial and timely that you get into this subject and learn everything you can, because it's important to understand the system we've had for the past 100 or so years, because the entire thing is about to be redone, reinvented, and rolled out in a totally new format on you. And almost everyone is unaware of what is coming.
Yeah.
So the system you live in today that you probably don't understand deeply enough is about to change. So learn this one. It's a context, a floor context to learn what they're doing with the upcoming central bank digital currencies, which they're now rebranding to open banking is the term that you're going to start to hear.
Yeah. They love to use nice
catchphrases and make it sound cool. So, and just a quick moment on that. Imagine every aspect of your money is tracked. Everywhere it's moved is openly readable by your bank, your government. You go purchase something on Facebook. Your tax agency says, hey, I noticed that you bought, this used thing off your friend on Facebook. We've taken the taxes out of your account in real time. Thank you very much. Imagine someone saying you can spend your money here or here or here, but not here. Imagine you get a tax child benefit. You have 7 days to spend it at these approved retailers or we take the money away. Mm-hmm. It goes on and on and on.
Okay, so someone might push back and say, well, I'm a good person. I have nothing to hide. It's like, okay, great. But the thing is that your behavior changes when you're watched. Mm-hmm. So imagine like you're just chilling in your house, going to the kitchen to grab some food. And then you notice like 3 guys dressed in like, trench coats and like sunglasses, and they're just watching you. Everything you do. Do you think that you're going to behave the exact same way? No, you're going to change your behavior, which impacts how you live your life, which changes your freedom and changes who you are.
Which allows stimulus to manipulate your actions.
Exactly. So it's not, so even if you plan, like there's no shady things you've ever done in your entire life. Everything you do is totally by the book. You actually do report all the stuff that you do on Facebook to, paying your friend for stuff. And you've already done all those things your whole life. Even in that case, you're still losing who you choose to be when you give up your privacy.
Yeah.
It's not like if you have nothing to hide, show me everything. No, because that changes who you act as a person. Privacy is a fundamental right to living the life that you actually want to live.
Yeah.
Like giving up monetary privacy, it comes at an absolutely massive cost.
Yeah, it does.
Huge cost. I agree there's trade-offs, to stopping crime and stuff like that, but that always has to be tempered with how much is this, like if we do this little bit of good, is it doing this much damage? Like, is it doing 100 million points of damage and only doing like 5 points of good?
Right.
So going back to that system though, with Bitcoin, it is a system that's not designed to enslave you and trap you and to extract your wealth from you. It's designed to totally change you. And so this upcoming CDBC, the main difference between it is CDBCs, if you're like, they make it sound like crypto, but it's not, because here's the main difference. With a CDBC, all of the computers that run that network are all owned by the institution themselves, meaning they have total control over how it works.
Yep.
So it's basically like if you were going to store all your files on your friend's computer, now your friend can decide to delete or change or modify any of your files.
Yep.
So you don't have actual control over them. So if you one day happen to disagree with what your friend believes, you can just be like, well, I'm just going to take all your files now. So on the other side with Bitcoin, the key thing with that is all of the power has been distributed, meaning not one person can be like, oh, I'm going to take everything from you. It's a whole network of all these different people.
Let me do a quick explanation of Bitcoin, because I I think that the audience deserves to know how this works if they're not already up to speed on it. So think of Bitcoin as this infinite spreadsheet with every single transaction between individuals of Bitcoin trades recorded on it. And this is from the invention of Bitcoin. This spreadsheet is recorded and distributed on something called nodes. Imagine little tiny computers, 100,000 and growing of them distributed around the world. They're in people's homes, their shops, their places of business. Some of them we can see, most of them we don't know exactly where they are. On those little computers, there's a hard drive, and every single one has an identical copy of that big spreadsheet of every single Bitcoin transaction and the rules of Bitcoin and how it's governed. And they're all talking to each other through the network, confirming that they have the same copy and the same rules. They're validating each other.
Yeah.
So all the transactions you've ever done proving that the Bitcoin you have in your wallet is still yours is being confirmed by this impenetrable network of heroes in the background of the Bitcoin network.
Yes.
Then on the front end, we hear about all these evil, power-hungry miners, the Bitcoin mining companies using all this power. Well, they're crunching the math to solve the algorithm to close off. Every 10 minutes, that spreadsheet gets full of entries.
Mm-hmm.
And every 10 minutes, that spreadsheet needs to close, be encrypted, and put out to all the nodes so that we have a new set of transactions recorded of what has happened in the last 10 minutes. Well, those miners are spending all that energy to secure those transactions and encode them and keep them safe.
Yeah, just like a bank has security. Like, would you trust a bank that just had all the money just sitting in the middle of a field and they're like, hey, store your money with me?
Yeah, so Bitcoin is the first time we have invented the people's money, secured by us, not controlled by any world government or banking family or any evil institution. This is our money. There can only ever be 21 million of them. There can be no fractional reserve banking system applied to it. This is our currency for the first time. It's a little too slow to be used in everyday banking, but there's solutions coming for that. There's inventions being layered over top. But
yeah, and Bitcoin is really just the entry point of just understanding this. And once you do, you'll see it's a completely different shift for the way we've done money our whole lives.
Yeah.
Like talking about sovereign money, this type of money system is the one that gives you sovereignty.
Do not sleep on Bitcoin a moment longer. I am a fool for only picking it up in 2020. You were much earlier. When I got into it, my mind was blown.
It's a mind virus. Once you start to understand it just completely shatters your whole understanding of reality.
And the part that I was most surprised of is when I learned that our current US dollar, Canadian dollar, euro, the fiat system is what it's called. When I learned how it's built and how it's just an idea made by man with rules that evolve and they can change the rules. When I saw how safe Bitcoin was and how decentralized and uncontrolled it was, it's a beautiful invention.
Here's a good analogy. Would you rather play Monopoly with someone and one of the people there can actually change the rules however they want as they play the game? Or would you rather play Monopoly with a set of rules written on paper that can't change? Because that's what Bitcoin is it's a rules-based monetary system.
Yep.
Whereas on the other side, the fiat system is controlled by people who can make up and change the rules as they see fit whenever they want.
Whenever they want, and they do all the time.
They do it all the time. Whenever conditions change and they need to be favorable for a certain way, then they change the rules.
Yep. To our detriment.
And then we're the ones who have to react to that and scramble to the door because we didn't know what was going to happen until they did it.
I hope everyone will get on the train of learning about Bitcoin. One book I recommend is The Bitcoin Standard. It's a great primer. It teaches the history of the regular money system you're used to. We'll show you the holes in it, and then it'll start to explain how Bitcoin works. He's got a couple other books you can graduate towards after that, but start with that one. So, Andrew, we've covered a couple things here: managing your money, splitting it up, using the jars or the multiple account system, what money is and is not, and then a little bit about Bitcoin. So those are just a couple topics that we had time to get into today. I want to encourage all the sovereign citizens listening to this podcast today. Check us out on the positivenetwork.info. Sign up. We have a community site coming soon. We're excited to get that launched. Join this community of people that will help you become that sovereign citizen to protect your family. We're just a couple of dads who are on a mission to do our part because we don't want the world that's coming inherited by our kids. We want a better place.
Absolutely. This is about not just us, but it's about our families. It's about our future. It's about our lives. And if we don't come together and work together, that's what this is all about. This is a network of people who are stronger together than they are apart. You might be really expert in one area, but there's no person that can be an expert in all of them. You just don't have the mental bandwidth or the biological, luck if you became really athletic or tall or whatever. There's going to be weaknesses, and those weaknesses can be rounded out by strength in numbers.
Exactly.
And so it's all about this community coming together, supporting each other, helping us become stronger and more sovereign together, sovereign citizens.
Yeah. Join the community and other superstar sovereign individuals. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you soon.